Greetings all, Ben here East West. This video today is going to be on some of the individual stock names after our massive week in uranium. So I'm going to look at CCJ, UEC and NXE. So as I mentioned at the start of my ETF video, this will be my last video for a couple of weeks while I take a well-earned break. So don't be surprised if you don't see any videos popping up in the next couple of weeks. I will be back later in January and then I will take a fresh look at everything. But in the meantime, we've had a pretty unbelievable week and we need to see where we sit here and now. So let's just start off here. CCJ, so, you know, like everything, a 17% rise this week. Pretty unbelievable. Okay, and I saw another new broker target come up here in this sort of general broker target area. You know, $68.50. That might be a bit light now. $74. Maybe that's a bit high. Who knows? But let's just take a look at this. So I think as we sit and which we looked at it, you know, this is just the point of area that we are now rapidly approaching. So we had this old peak here around $52. And of course, we've got the all-time high back here at sort of just shy of 56. So it would look like, in my opinion, it would look like we're going to get there and through. Well, who knows? But you know, you wouldn't back against it getting through at this stage. You wouldn't be a seller of 50, you know, calls above $50 in the near term. I wouldn't have thought, or the long term either. I think that would probably be a pretty average trade. Nonetheless, let's look at what we've got here. So I think from what I have said, nothing much really changes here. I think the way I was looking at this in an Elliott perspective seems to be unfolding. So let's just quickly brush back over that. So just to recap, it looks like we've got 1, 2, a third, a fourth, and now I think the way this looks, we can expect just an expectation, not a prediction, an extended fifth wave. So one of the ways we can find an area of interest or potential target in an extended fifth wave is we take what we think is the impulse as it's unfolding, put wave 4 bottom right here at the 61.8 of what would potentially be the length of the entire movement, and that would put us up to those broker targets or into that zone. So like I said, it's not a prediction. It's just that when you read the textbook and follow what it says, that is one method it suggests to try to see where the top of 5 potentially lays. Now, that's not to say that this is right, of course. This is just a way to draw something around the market to give us some sort of idea. But of course, once we get through this box, we've got no price history. Okay, we've got nothing to lean on because this is the all-time high. So this is all fresh blue sky up here, as they say. So, you know, that's where once you get above here, once you've got no more history, that's when some of that projection work can be kind of handy. And it's not to say that it's a prediction. A projection is not a prediction. It's just something that well, what else are you got to do? I mean, you've got no other way to sort of value the stock other than to think, well, you know, these broker targets, we, you know, basis all the fundamentals, and for all we know, the fundamentals are going to keep going. So, look, it's just a point of interest. Like I said, it could get up here and go even further. You know, to do a 5 wave, you've got to disqualify this as a triangle because you can't have triangles in the wave 2 position. So, I don't know. That's all probably just Elliott wave semantics that you may not be all that interested in. And you know what? Even to say that this is going to be a 3-wave move in general, and I think I've suggested before like this, before it stops, you know, there's nothing to say that it's got to be, that a 3-wave move has to be a 1-to-1. Okay, because I think now, I haven't done the exercise, but we should look. So even this, taking from the peak here, off the lowest low since the peak, we've already gone 1-to-1. Okay, so a 3-wave move, you can still get up. If it's an ABC, just a 3, not a 5, the third wave can still travel 161.8% the length of the first wave. All I'd say is that if that did happen, it's still a big if we did get up here and started hitting into these maybe 200% into these broker targets, the only thing if I saw that, the only thing I would be thinking is I wouldn't be as expecting that as much. Okay, but there's a lot of water to go under the bridge, and you know what? If it did that, okay, if it got up here and then went like that, and then I'd probably be back here going, oh, well, this wasn't a triangle, even though it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. But some of the other, this is the only one that's got the clean triangle. Some of the other ones aren't as definitive about that. So look, I'll leave that aside. Let's just look at the bare bones basics. I mean, it's the same thing that's been prevalent for a very long time. That we just keep, the trend is your friend, and you just keep riding this trend. Now we busted this trend. Okay, we busted out of the top of it, and this is steepening up very, very quickly. This acceleration is very, very fast. Okay, but it's ongoing, and so whilst ever, maybe we could clone this now to jam that out. But whatever's happening here, you just stick with it until it starts to give you something definitive. And, at times I've looked at this and gone, oh, the RSI is not looking super duper hot. But like I've said, a divergence can happen for a long time before the market plays out. So it's just a marker. It's not necessarily a signal to do something. It's just a signal to be prepared and wary. But, let's just forget about that, because like I said, the only thing that matters is where the price closed today, and price closed today up big time, just short of its all-time high. But like I said, I would think that's going to get broken. So this trend is it's getting a little bit difficult to make. Maybe we're sort of like this now. That would be your immediate point of call. But remember, we're out here on a weekly. Let's just go into the daily. Yeah, I'd probably, maybe you could tie that in like that. I'd probably just be looking at that, because the top side of whatever sort of trend we've got is sort of busted with the gap. But once again, this is kind of nice, because just coming in to fill this gap would just tie in really, really nicely with resistance. We had some resistance here becoming support. Okay, and that, like I said, that's what you want to see. Now, whether or not we get up to challenge this area before that happens, only time will tell. But like I said, that would just be what I'll be looking for now, is just the gap to get filled, and just to come in and test this would be just beautiful. Now, I think we had a look at this because we had a look at a bit of a small distribution event here, and this small correction into this double bottom, which proved to be very, very good. But measured move, okay, we've hit the target. So what would that mean? That would just mean that the next point of call in the measured move series would be, and that's if this, you would have to drag this high as we go. Okay, but you can see here how a 50% pullback, if this was going to maintain the high, I think post we're at $50. So we, maybe next week it goes up a little bit further, maybe it just smacks into that and stops. But wouldn't that be, I mean, look at that technically, wouldn't that be nice that if we just went up here, just tested that level, stopped, and came back and filled this gap and tested this in exactly to the 50? Well, that's what you want. that's actually, what would be even sexier is that would be unreal. Okay, that would be super. I mean, that it's seldom so neat, but geez, that would be nice. Okay, that's the thing, but it remains to be seen. But look, like I said, just as we sit, okay, that's where we sit. That is what you want to see in CCJ going forward. Okay, before we can go on and get into this blue sky area, which I can't see any reason why we're not. Okay, the trend's going on, the patterns are forming up. I think I said that if this was going to be the end of the correction here, that you would expect a strong reaction sometime soon. Well, that's a bloody strong reaction, right? That might be the best weekend. I don't know how long, but like I said, the gap, come back to test this, that'll be A1. Just ticks everywhere. That's what you want to see. Okay, just coming in here to UEC. I haven't looked at this one for a little while, but here we go. Bang, we've broken through these areas. Obviously we busted through this, but now that we've busted that, what's next? I mean, there's not a lot there. There's really only this. Okay, the all-time high. Okay, I mean, this is just super duper. The angle of this trend so far is at nearly 80%. That's like 90% is vertical. I mean, this is not far off a vertical rally. I mean, that would always make me a little bit wary, but wow, gee whiz. I mean, look, quick lessons in history. That was nearly vertical, okay? And you see the reaction coming off it. That was nearly vertical, the reaction coming off it. So that's the only thing that makes me a little bit nervous. I mean, that was nearly vertical, okay? This is nearly vertical. And every time we got to the top of wherever these runs out, that there was a sharp reaction. So no suggestions. I'm not suggesting that, but just stay away. I mean, it's not quite as steep as some of these other examples, but just be aware. Always be aware. Ride the trend. I'm not saying don't ride the trend and enjoy it, but always be aware that you've really caught a tiger by the tail here. So once you do that, you've got to think about, okay, well, where are my points of interest lie? And I think here it's pretty clear where you would need to be pretty alert, and that's just simply that. Even though there's probably a highly likely chance we come in and retest this, you just wouldn't want to see something like that, because obviously then you go, oh, okay, well, why isn't this going on further? But look, that's hypothesizing. As it sits, what do we got? We've just got a big strong trend. We've whipped through one level. We've got the all-time high. It's got to do a bit more work yet, but the way everything looks, there's no reason to think it's not going to get there. Okay, so even though this would a one-to-one move here, which has just put us up $8.60 sort of thing, that would just be a point of interest, but I would find it highly unlikely if we were going to get here that they wouldn't want to push it further. So like I said, it doesn't have to be a one-to-one to be an A, B, C. It can go here, it can go here. Maybe that's the top. I'm not suggesting that. I don't think so. I think it's going to keep going. I can't see any reason why it won't, but I don't know. And once again, if it was going to do 5 waves, which we don't know, because this is fluky, I think it's okay. I think you can make it a good enough case, but 3, 4, 5, you would be expecting that. Once again, I'm not suggesting it's getting to 16.7. I'm just looking at the shape. Okay, $16.70, but it might. Who knows? Could go further. But that's just what you'd be expecting. So that becomes a point of call for sure. We'll just see. I'm pretty sure. I feel pretty confident the market will get there, and then we just wait and see. Because as things sit, I don't. There's nothing here telling me that this is completed, other than to think that it's probably going into the final stage. But remember, the final stage can be an extended move. Okay, so an extended part of the movement. But let's look at that a little bit closer. So I had to do a little bit of shuffling here, because originally I thought the third was here and this was going to be the fourth. But even then, even thinking about like an extended wave, $8.35, it still feels a bit short to me. And I'm only really thinking about it in terms of, well, everything's not really suggesting, especially with that news out of Kazakhstan, that nothing's really suggesting that the fundamental outlook's going to ease anytime soon. So thinking about that and looking at this, I'm kind of now thinking, okay, well, maybe this is, you've got to do, this is more an internal 4, and then actually this is the bigger 3, and then maybe we've got, it looks like a running flat for a 4 there, right? So even just doing that with an extended 5th wave would put us, well, we're getting pretty damn high, right? But nothing's impossible. It's not as clear as it was to me, I think. I'm sort of scratching around a little bit. So, when you're scratching around with Elliott on the short term, you just put it aside. Go back to the bare basics. What have we got? We've got a hell of a lot of resistance through here. We want that to become support. We've got a nice sort of trend channel through here, and we've just bashed straight into the top of that. So, next week maybe this gets blown out and the top of this trend channel becomes a little bit irrelevant. But I think the point remains that while we're in this, don't do anything. Okay, if you start losing this like that, okay, then you got to come back and go, oh, okay, well, I was never. Here's the thing. This is what I say. You're never going to sell out at the exact top. You might, but you're lucky if you do, right? I mean, it's virtually impossible to time the absolute top. What do they say? You're doing well if you catch sort of 80% of the trend, up, and you get out after 20% of the trend going back down. So, you probably, whenever this tops out, whenever that may be, 2024, 2025, 21, 24 for all we know, you're probably going to find a 20% pullback at some stage, that you're going to have a 20% drawdown from your peak. But you just got to accept that that's going to happen if you're going to play this long trend. And it's intact, but this would be the point of call for now. And like I said, I just the same thing. I'd just be looking for some sort of retracement back to there. That would be what I'd want to see. Okay. If this was going to be the high, that's still a big if. I mean, look where the tops of all these come in, right on the 50%. That would be good. That would be good. Even if it just touched this again. Okay. If we just extend that out and it touched it again, or it touched here. And like I said, I mean, it's almost certainly not going to happen that neatly, because if it did, it'd be easy, right? So, that just becomes the point of call. That's just what you look for now in the next couple of weeks. You want to see this retracement back to here, and for old resistance to become new support, because it just shows that the market is prepared to go higher. So that's how I'd look at that. Okay, now let's just finish off here with NXE, and I've sort of thought I'd do something a bit funky here. It's kind of cool. I don't know how this is going to work out, because I'm going to do it live. So let's just look at this, and I'll see if it works. So I'm going to use the bar replay just to show you how, technically you'd set stuff up. Before you comment saying, "Oh, you Harry hindsight, yeah, you knew I was going." Yes, of course I did. I mean, but the same techniques and stuff that I'm pointing out, I'm just going through the exercises showing how it played out in the past, which is why we keep going in the future. So let's just kick this off. Okay, so this is where are we? We're in 2021, where we've come up and got the big peak. Okay, so we're coming up. We're starting to stop. Okay, so what have we got here? I mean, we've got a point here. Now we start looking at. Okay, we've got a pretty big pullback. We start looking at where are our retracement zones. Now, the fact that this lines up with this, let's just play on here. Okay, we're still going up, so we've still got some interest there. We're going a little bit higher, so now we would just move this up a little bit further. Okay, now we've got another pretty big pullback, and we're just holding that zone for now. And now we're pushing away from it. We're back, we've tested. Okay, so you can see now that onto this 50% zone that we've got these tests through here, okay? But so far we're holding them, okay? Let's just get rid of that. So far we're holding them, okay? But what have we got here? We've got a little bit of a downtrend. It's not well formed, but let's play on. Held again, okay. Now it looks like we've got another little zone forming up here of resistance. So let's see, we're trapped in a range here, okay? We're trapped in this range. And what does this box represent on the other side? Not quite 50%. Let's play on. Okay, now we're busting through the range. No, we've had a deviation and failed. We're coming back to test our support again, but we're holding. Remember, this is on a weekly. Okay, now we're back into the resistance. We're just stuck in the range. Okay, now we're starting to bust, all right? Bust. Now, what could you do here? Well, this was the range. I mean, think about range expansion, how we got straight to the top of this. Okay, let me fix this up a bit. Okay, that was the range. So range expansion, okay, that and it ties in once again. Maybe I don't like that. Maybe I don't like that deviation. I think the tops are better here. So let's just get rid of that, and then we'll just drag this here. So we got our range expansion, which we've just sort of flicked through. But you can see how the market starts to resist that range as it comes into this. So look, at this point, if it busts through here, then that's what we're looking for. But once again, what do we just look for here? I mean, we look for retracements. So maybe not so much that one, but coming off the breakout, okay, coming off this breakout of the range, we get a retracement here, all right? We just play on. We're nearly done. And then we resist, and bang. But what's happened here which I really like, is all this old resistance has become support, and now we've just broken through. So, you know, that's what we want to see. And now we got the measured move. Okay, so now we would just take the next swing and then off wherever this high is going to be. And wouldn't that be, like I said, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I'm not suggesting that's all going to line up, you know, that simply. Okay, but even let's just think about when we went back. Let's just think about the bigger one, okay, where we held, and we're nearly at that point of the next measured move. Okay, so, you know, maybe if that lined up like that, and then we just came back down here 50%, just tested into this stuff. This is what we want to see, the test, and then the move on. That would be the ideal scenario. But once again, forget about all that. There's your big trend. As long as we hold that, everything's pretty good, right? And just in terms of your short-term trends, you got a little bit of neatness coming here where we've just got this. So you can just see how this would be maybe just, you know, in the next week or two, just a point of interest. But once again, that doesn't mean anything, because it could just do this, and that's all that really matters, is whatever price does. So yeah, you know, you can just see how you're lining up technically, not to suggest that you sell your position, but just to go, okay, well, this is a point of interest. I'm still very long-term bullish. I don't think there's any reason, but you know, let's see what it does here. Do we get this little correction back, and does this now hold? Okay, this old area of resistance, does that now hold? I mean, it's already sort of done it here, right? It's already done it. So, you know, maybe even a shorter one here, I think, that just ties into the gap. Okay, so here's the gap, all right? And this was, you can see the old points through here, okay, there, because we sort of tested that we had resistance and broke through. So even just on a shorter term basis, on a shorter retracement, what do we got? Okay, that just comes right into the 50, in between the 50 and the 61.8. So that's how you could just tie it together. That's assuming this is going to be the top, and it's going to retrace, but it may not. Okay, so I think I'll leave it there. So you know, that was just a little exercise. I mean, I think it's pretty simple right now, right? It's pretty straightforward in terms of the market. We ride the trend. It's still nice and bullish. We just look for those gaps, those retracements, the points of stabilization, and as long as they maintain, hey, there's no reason to do anything but just keep watching and let the good times roll. So I'll leave it there. Once again, this will be my last video for a couple of weeks. So don't be surprised if nothing pops up until later in January, and I will see you all then. Best of luck, and bye for now.